r/ask Reddit. What scares you as an adult that didn't bother you as a kid? Lack of time. As a kid, felt like I had all the time in the world. As an adult, I feel like I have no time to do anything other than work. Taking away the moments that make up a dull day. Yes, I've been made aware that it's ticking, thanks guys. Jumping down from a height greater than a few feet. As a kid I could jump off a roof and roll with it. Nowadays if I land funny I fear I'll be paralyzed for life. When I was 13, my brother and I jumped from our roof onto the trampoline. Now I get into a seated position on the truck tailgate before sliding off the remaining 6 inches. Other people's driving. I can barely sit through a car ride with my dad now without grabbing the oh shit bar. I felt that for a long time after driving for many years, but I recently realized I just don't trust other people's judgments on what to do in situations. A tooth falling out. As a kid it was gross, funny and painful all at once. As an adult, horrifying. My dentist said that a couple of my teeth are a little mobile. Then he said it's nothing to really worry about, as if hearing teeth and mobile in the same sentence is ever good. I had surgery a couple of months ago. When I woke up, I had a gash cut into my lower back gum about half an inch long. My very back lower tooth was also loose. I could wiggle it with my fingers. I was terrified. 2 different dentists took x-rays and told me no big deal, but I was mortified. Took about a month, but the gash healed and the tooth tightened up. How does that happen? Head injuries. As a kid, I thought broken bones were the big thing to worry about, because I could visualize what that was. I had no sense for the severity of brain injuries. As an adult, protecting my noggin is my #1 injury concern, because the human machine don't work with a damaged processor. Everything that you are and respect is contained in this tiny dome. One false move and you can become a monster to your peers, or a burden to your loved ones. It's pretty scary to consider that. My parents' mortality. I've already done the please don't die before I get to the hospital plane flight. Thankfully that was not the case. For now. This one is kind of weird for me but completely true. Because when you are a child, you see for parents' mortality as something so far away and that eventually you will be prepared. But is never the case. Recently my grandmother died after a long disease and what it struck me the most was the reaction from my mom. She said no somos nada. We are nothing. She was devastated and then it comes to my mind. One day I would be the one on her shoes and she will be on the coffin. The hard part is that is the best result. That you bury your parents, not the other way around. Getting out of bed in the morning after you slept in the wrong position. Me. It's nice to finally get 8 hours of sleep. My body. LOL, but you did it wrong. I had no fear of U-Hauls until I rented a U-Haul. I filled out all of my information online and they gave me the keys to a 27-foot box truck. No training. No anything. They'll just let anyone take these massive vehicles and drive them off the lot. Give them a wide berth. Yup, kinda crazy. And those folks that drive the giant bus-sized RVs? Same thing. Truck and bus drivers, they know what they are doing, they have training. Rental trucks and giant RVs, I'll get as far away from you as possible. It's also often old people who buy these giant RVs as well around here. Better safe than sorry. Signs of aging. When you're a kid, getting older means new and exciting changes. When you're in your 30s plus, it means far less fun things. I don't really sweat the cosmetic ones. I just try to think about the first lines to show up on my face were the ones you get from laughing. That feels right to me. The tendons in my legs not bouncing back from a walk or run. That I could do without. I don't mind the grey hairs. That's just showing I have some experience. But if those hairs start to run away, I'm going to be a whole lot less okay with it. I'm starting to get the you've done the same job for 20 years soreness. Those don't disappear as easily as before. My biggest fear is that I'll end up requiring care by others when I grow older. I'd rather die before that. Also being stuck in my country and forced to live a mediocre life. I just turned 32 and I've been basically paraplegic for 4 years and it's awful. I wish I would just die. I feel like an anchor around the necks of everyone I love. They would mourn but then they could just live their lives instead of carrying me around. I turned 63 this year and I've been a paraplegic for 40 years. I wish I could tell you it gets better. It doesn't. We get to have all the problems of aging and the problems of paraplegia. The only thing you can change is your attitude. When I found out back in 1980 that I'd never walk again, I cried, then dried my face and decided to get on with it. Duck it. I'll do what I can with what I got. Best wishes on life's endeavors. Traveling in a car, especially if I'm not the one driving. I never used to be like that until I passed my test. Now I feel myself putting my foot down on an imaginary brake when in the passenger seat. Anesthesia. As a kid, I was led to believe that it was something magical that happened to you when you got your tonsils out, and then afterwards, you could eat all the ice cream you wanted. Now that I've had it as an adult and know that there's always a possibility it could go horribly wrong, I get really antsy and scared just thinking about it. Butterflies. I don't get it either. Oh, and teenagers. I think everybody's scared of teenagers, even teenagers. Anything related to going to the hospital. When I was a kid, I was always in the emergency room with a deep cut or broken bone. Now that I realize it isn't as free as I thought it was when I was a kid, I'll make any excuse to not go to the hospital. Case in point, my wife, before we were married, went to the ER with severe abdominal pains and found out she had an infection in her gallbladder, so they removed it. Her hospital bill, because she went out of network and had in a visit, was over $80,000. Meanwhile, I probably would have just died because I would have crunched down 100 Imodium before visiting the hospital. The fact that our leaders don't really know what they are doing and that they use their position for self-benefit. Owning a home. I am only slightly exaggerating when I say that I wake up every day fully expecting some new and expensive catastrophe to unfold. Man, like 90% of the time when I have a stressed dream, it's about finding water where there shouldn't be water. Garage door springs. I owned my own garage door company for 10 years, so naturally I'm not afraid of them, but I can assure you, if you are not trained and don't know what you're doing, those springs will absolutely beat you to death. Maybe at best, take off a few fingers. Number 1 tip. Do not use a screwdriver to try to wind them or unwind them. How easily your life can start going downhill. Though, on the contrary, how crazy fast life can go uphill after it comes crashing down. 2 years ago I got run off a job by a top tier superintendent who went after my job trying to get me fired, saying I don't know what I'm doing and calling me a liar. Struggled with depression and a strong addiction to alcohol after that. Today I got nominated as the Employee of the Year for leadership in my state. All I did was try to make everybody's lives easier. I used to love flying as a kid. Then, when I was late teens young adult, I was on a particularly turbulent flight for hours over the ocean and thought we were going to crash. For years after that, I couldn't fly without anxiety. I didn't want to look out the window. I'd close my eyes and mutter through turbulence, etc. Then, inexplicably, I chose a career as a flyer in the Air Force. That helped to get me over my fear of flying pretty well. Yep, similar boat. Flown at least a couple times a year since I was a little kid and had no problem flying, even alone. Even hit a turbulent flight to Tokyo about 10 years ago that didn't faze me long term. Then when I was about 26 or 27 I was on an island hopper type plane during a thunderstorm. The flight, which was coming from a very tiny airport, had originally been grounded, but somehow we got approval to fly about a half hour later, and I legit thought I was going to die that day. That storm tossed us around like we were a toy. There were only 3 other passengers on the plane, a little old lady who slept through the whole thing, and a couple of Air Force guys who chatted pleasantly with each other like nothing was happening. It was really surreal. Had some flight anxiety for a year or so after that. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.